Hey everyone. Well, we're finally going to get back to some big tool restorations here. I've been working on building the workshop and workbenches and all that stuff for basically the entire summer. It's now the end of October, and you got to see what we're going to work on today. It's pretty amazing. All right, so this is a 1940s, I would guess, possibly earlier. Skilsaw model 87. Now, I know everybody knows the Skill model 77, world famous. This is an 87, and it was out the same time for the 77. I think these were being built for 30 years at least. And you know, this thing is just incredible. It weighs, the drill itself, or the saw itself, weighs 25 pounds. And then you add the cord, you're at a 26 pound monster. And look at this cord. You think I should try plugging it in? See if it works. But here's an interesting note. This, someone asked once, why would an older tool have like a 3-wire setup before the code required 3-prong outlets? And here's a good example of it. So this is a grounding wire that would attach, I believe, to the outlet. So you'd screw it to the outlet screw and then plug this in, and that would keep you grounded. So as a replacement cord, I actually got this 10 gauge, 10-foot black cord, which is pretty heavy duty and should about match the size, because I want to continue with this heavy duty strain relief. I want to keep that as well. But that's about it. Right, Muggsy? Muggsy's been waiting for me to get back to work. All right, so that's our mission. Let's get busy. Okay, we'll start. I will admit I have no idea how this thing comes apart, and this is where the wiring comes out. There's the switch. So first things first, let's take the blade off. I'm going to try this. See, this has obviously been on there for a long time, but let's see if we can get this to move. It is a 9/16, by the way. Oh, Muggsy didn't like that. Okay, I may be turning it the wrong way. I don't think so, but we'll give it a shot. Either way, it doesn't want to move. Yep, okay. It's a great example of why you don't force things, because I was tightening it. Okay. When do you think the last time the blade was off this thing is? Let me get a metal tray. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of pieces to this. I also have a feeling I should be wearing gloves. All right, let's look at the inside of this. It's pretty intense. How old do you think the sawdust is? I'm hoping there's a way to oil this thing. It's a little easier than taking all this apart. But we'll see. All right, let's see what we can look at with the wire. see what's in here. This screw is pre-stripped, just for me. I don't know if I'm expecting something to come out, but it's not. Okay. All right, let's take this guard off here. That's gonna be, let me tell you. There are going to be a lot of pieces to clean up with this. All right, this washer goes with that. We got another wing nut here. Oh, that one's already loose. Okay, let's see if this guard comes off, or what else is holding it. Looks like this is holding it. There you go. Okay. We got it. Okay. All right, just for, what did that screw into? Ah, okay. So we'll just put this back where we found it. You gotta wonder how much use this saw, which was obviously a lot, and was it ever actually cleaned? Look at how thick this grease is here. Okay, a Craftsman 1 inch. It is apparently the right size, or approximately. It could be a 15/16. I think the odds that I'll be able to rewire this from here are pretty much zero. This looks like a heavy piece of brass. Wow, I don't know why it is so difficult to get it off. Looks to be spinning the cable while we do this. I don't like that idea, but there's not much I can do about it. But I can cut this cable. We're never going to use that cable. All right. Let's get this thing out of the way. Here's something interesting. I was wondering about this. Would the wires be the same color? And they are. We got a green, a white, and a black. That should make rewiring this thing a lot easier. Once I ever get in here, there's still some doubt about that. All right, this isn't a good idea. This is pulling everything too tight. So, okay, so that one screw, I guess, did do this, I think. There are 2 holes up here that look to be for screws also. Yep, okay. This is how we'll access the switch. Aluminum. Here's our switch. Yeesh. Yeesh, 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 yeesh. Yep. Alright, so let's start by disconnecting these wires up here. So we're not pulling on the switch. Let's see if we can get the switch to pop out. Doesn't look like it wants to. So those 2 screws in the top here held on to the top of the switch. I'm gonna have to find some replacements because those were missing, and those are vital. That's probably, could be a reason why this got retired, because somebody clearly took them out. Switch does appear to work. Okay. I got a plastic bit. I'm just gonna spray it with this electronic cleaner. It does a pretty good job of just removing gunk. This is a new one on me. How this whole thing comes apart. But it's so heavy, it's just hilarious. Let's get this front piece off from the handle. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get everything out of the way. But we'll also be taking some of the weight off, which is a good thing. Wherever possible, I'm going to put the screws back where they came from. because there's going to be a lot. Pretty sure this will have to come off as well. This one's very stripped. Yep, that's going to be our big problem right there. Alright, let's clean it out. See if maybe a bigger screwdriver will give us a little bit more grip. Alright, time for some penetrating oil. Okay, so we're just going to use PV Blaster. I don't have my mystery oil in the shop. It's actually in my garage. That's our #1 problem screw. This is probably going to give us trouble as well. We got to clean. Just look at this. Unreal. What a mess. So I'm hoping penetrating oil will work on the screw, because it looks like we may really need to get that off in order to get at the wiring. All right, so I'm gonna let that sit and then we'll be back. Well, I took a break to give the penetrating oil some time. Let's see what we got. Not yet. How about this guy? That one went. That actually seemed really hard, and then it just moved. So we're only being held up by that one screw. That's too good. Let's see. Let me get these other screws out and see what happens. Actually reversed. Clean that. This is really something. I'm gonna pause the camera while I try to figure out how to get this apart. I've got it so it's cracked open. That screw seems to be important. I'm gonna have to work on that. I'll be back. I'll give it a close up. So I've got the case split. I have not got the screw out. You can see it doesn't look that bad, but it's not holding the screwdriver. And I think I do have to get that screw out to get this thing apart. Not quite sure why that would be though. Because this is attached somewhere? No. So maybe, okay, maybe not. Maybe I can take this screw out. Hold on, let's get back to, let's try this again. Maybe. If I take this screw out, this other piece will move. Yep, okay, that one's good. So I can probably get by without taking that other screw off, but here's where it's gonna get tricky. There's a lot of dirt here, and this whole motor is gonna come apart. The brushes are probably gonna go spline. I don't know how well these brushes are gonna come out, but might as well have a look at them while we're at it. Look at the size of them. Look at the size of that brush. Wow. Wow. All right. Hey, it came out at least. Let's take the other one out. Jeez, these are huge. All right, brushes are out. Let's see what happens when we try to slide this thing open. It's either gonna come apart or it's not. Look at the dirt in there. Look. I've done a lot of these. I don't think I've ever done one like that. Look at that. Good Lord. Look at the gunk in there. Wow. Wow, it's so dirty. All right, a little cleaner now, at least. A little. Okay. Maybe now. I can't believe the mess I'm making. Whew. Cut this. Wow. That is quite the strain relief there. They weren't kidding around with that. Got it. Well, that was a small miracle. That will make this a little easier to handle. I want to close up. You can see how caked full of sawdust that is. Okay. I got a little lucky here, and I decided that maybe I can just force this cord through, and I did. You see the ground doesn't seem to attach to anything. These are soldered on. I don't know why this ground isn't attached to anything. It's kind of strange. It's just loose. It's possible somebody replaced it at some point and it was attached to something. I don't know what, but this switch is missing a whole bunch of screws. And I'm gonna have to try to find some type of replacements. They're very small. All right, so I may call it a night. I gotta think about this. The hot and neutral are easy. I'll just solder them back in place. I gotta figure out where this goes, and I'm gonna have to look for screws. This screw needs to be put back because the whole switch is loose. With that screw, the switch seems to work. It's rusty too. The springs are pretty rusty, but they're working. And then I'll see if I can get my new cord to go in and up to the switch. And then we'll back it down and put these guys back on. It does look like that went there. Or did it just clip in there? There is another screw. Well, that's interesting. There is a screw. It looks like very tiny. Right? Sorry, everything's pretty filthy. Right there appears to be a very small screw that may have pulled through the switch, and that may also have been what that ground attached to. But either way, I do have to find a screw for that. So I really made a mess. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Hopefully we'll be able to get this thing together and get it working. I'll be back. Hey everyone. Well, it's actually 2 weeks later and I'm finally getting back to this 1940s Skilsaw. So let's quickly recap. I've got it apart. It still needs to be cleaned, so I'm gonna do that next. I gotta clean everything. Look at this mess. Look at all the old sawdust off it. This is filthy. I've got electrical cleaner for that. The one thing I was able to do was I was able to find some replacement screws for this, which I believe is where the ground connects, and this, which mounts to the top of the handle, that plate. So I was able to locate screws for that, and that's basically where we're at. The next big step is adding the power cord. I suppose I shouldn't be amazed at how much wood debris is in here. I mean, the thing is 80 years old, at least. I'm guessing it's 1940s. I don't know. It could be older. I don't think so. even inside the motor. It's just incredible. I'm gonna have to run a lot of cleaner through this thing. It is a combination of sawdust and oil and grease. All right, that's pretty much empty. That's the end of that can. Let's see how clean we can get this stuff. I don't know how much of this you want to see. We'll see when I edit. All of these parts too are very heavy. Well, I took one entire can. That's what I'm using. Hopefully you can see that. I got it mostly clean, but I can do better. All right. I'm gonna let that sit for a while, dump this, and I'll be back. Perhaps I'm being a little optimistic here, but on the off chance that this wasn't taken apart and not put back together properly because it didn't work, I'm going to put some nail jelly on this. I don't have any evaporust at the moment, so I'm just gonna put nail jelly on this to de-rust this blade. Curious how big this blade actually is. Doesn't look all that big, but it is a 7. It's a 7-inch blade. I would have thought it was bigger because of the size of the saw, but apparently not. I forgot, this stuff does not smell very nice, but I'm using nail jelly. Okay, power cord. Should have thrown this away a while ago. I'll save this end. Some collectors like to save these original ends from power cords and stuff. This can go. Legendary, this power cord. So we've got our replacement here. And this is a heavy power cable. Really heavy. I don't know if I can even use these to strip this, but let's see. First off, I'm going to wire brush this just to clean it up a bit. All right, when wire brushing, goggles, gloves. Save a lot of time cleaning it up. Looks good. Couldn't get the inside, but that's okay. Cord goes through the inside. My hope is that these will go up a lot easier. Got it. All right. Hey everyone, just a brief interruption here. If you're enjoying this content and you'd like to support my channel, and especially if you like cats, I've written a series of chapter books for ages 8 and up, fully illustrated, called Flea Biscuit and Friends. The first book in the series is Flea Biscuit Finds a Home, followed by Flea Biscuit Summer Vacation, and finally, Flea Biscuit's Magic Christmas. They're available at all local booksellers as well as on Amazon.com. I will post a link in the video description. And hey, that's my pitch. Back to the video. Let's look at that switch. Now, this screw here, I'll give you a close-up. I put a screw in this right here because it was missing one, and I'm guessing that that is where this went. That it clipped in, if you can see that it clipped under that screw. Honestly, I can't say, but That's my plan. I'm sticking to it. All right, I'm gonna get my soldering iron, take these wires off, strip these guys. I'm crimping what was yellow, but I took the plastic off. But we'll try yellow, see if it crimps it enough. Yeah, it should be good. It's a little big for what I need it to do, but I don't really have much choice there. So what I'm doing is you can see, hopefully you can see the holes. They aren't big enough for the gauge wire I'm using, so I'm just going to drill them out a little bit. Alright, I'm a little worried about how loose these are. So I'm going to put some shrink tubing over this so I can slide out. Just putting a little solder paste on from my ancient vat of solder paste. Using liquid electrical tape instead. We'll see if it works. I don't know why it suddenly moved like that. Hopefully that doesn't mean that the wires came off. But I guess we'll find out. Okay, switch is in, surprisingly enough, and it feels good. I don't know about the power cord. I don't know if I pulled it too hard. Hopefully not. I don't know if my soldering is all set. I don't know. This is a very, very difficult one to work on. I'll put it that way. You gonna fight me on this thing? I mean, it was hard to get off, but. Alright, I'm not gonna make that too tight until I know this thing works. Okay. All right, next up, we actually get to put this motor back together. So we're going to use dry lube to kind of clean and lubricate everything. This stuff is great for exactly this purpose. It can clean a motor a little bit, but it'll put a little lubrication in there. Okay. You get several different size screws here. Best I can do is guess where they go. Now I'm kind of putting it together because I want to see if it works. If it does, then I'll feel comfortable with taking these screws out. And yeah, this is definitely, I think, where the longer one went. And wire brushing them, but for now, I'm just gonna kind of put them together. Oh well, that I can find out later. All right, let's put the brushes back in. Well, it's together, and we were at a point where I could pull the trigger. So this is going to be a multi-step process to check this out. I always do this, but this guy especially, because I can't see the wiring in there. Also, I've been using a lot of chemicals in there. So I'm putting on rubber gloves. Didn't end up needing to use that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this power strip off. I'm going to plug it in. So if in fact my wires became disconnected, when I turn this power strip on, I'll know without touching anything. So far, so good. Okay? So it's got juice. Now, what I'm going to do is with one hand, I'm going to hit that switch and see what it does. It works. Now we got a little spark in there, not surprised. Did you see how it torqued it? It actually rocked the whole drill. The little sparking in there is not a problem. There's a lot of chemicals in there. They haven't fully evaporated, but that's what I wanted to test. I wanted to see it's wired right, and it apparently works, which is great. So, yeah, that's good. I'm shocked it works. I'm not gonna run it more than that. I'm gonna actually let it dry overnight. I'm gonna start putting some stuff away here, and I'll be back in a minute. Hey everyone, well, it's the next day, and I've let the saw dry out after all the cleaner that I've used, and I've cleaned up the workbench a little bit, so let's see what else we've got to do. I'm going to want to take this off. I want to inspect inside the gearbox, and I'm not sure if that is the best place or if it's that. That is a big nut. I'm just not familiar with these, but either way, I want to put some oil in there, and I want to probably do a full oil change and get that oil out. It's interesting, that's all bent. But anyway, we're almost at the cosmetics phase. Let's get busy here. It's nice to finally have the workbench a little bit cleaner. Oof. Well, let's get a close-up here. This is why you change the oil in these things. Look at how thick this is. That is no longer particularly oil. It is mostly hardened, but let's see if we can get a good look inside. Not great, but you can see it. There is still oil in there, but there is also chunky grease that I need to remove. But you can see the worm gear right there. So yeah, let me get this stuff out of there and make sure it doesn't drop in there. So I'll have to clean it out. All right, I'm actually gonna wire brush this. Clean it up a little bit. Goggles and gloves. That's better. So the reason I wire brush that is so that it has a tighter seal down here. I don't want this thing leaking out oil. Let's see, a good way to give you an example of how thick this oil really is. Well, let's put it this way. It won't just pour right out, because it's too thick for that. It's gonna come out real slow. Like molasses. Here it comes. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can, but granted, this is older oil that's in there, but that is really thick stuff. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna give this an oil change. I'm gonna just let it drain. All right, I'm gonna let this drip for a while, and I'm gonna get ready to start the cosmetics once I put oil in here. Looks like you can access the oil from there as well, and from here. I don't know enough about these. But this is working. All right, the oil has stopped dripping out, so I guess we got a clean slate. You see, not much came out. I'm gonna be putting a lot more than that in. And you know, we're gonna get on the cosmetics. I've already cleaned up this. I used my cordless Dremel. But yeah, so let's get back on the tripod and then we'll start the cosmetics. Ooh, I never get used to how heavy this thing is. That is sticky oil. Whoa. It's not only as slow as molasses, it's as sticky. Look at this. Yuck. Now, unfortunately, I have run out of my Skilsaw oil, and so I'm going to be using Lucas gear oil, which is fine. Especially considering the amount of use this is going to get. This is 90 weight, 80 to 90 weight oil. It's pretty heavy stuff. I forget how much that stuff stinks. It does stink. That'll work for now till the other stuff comes in. I ordered a new tube on Amazon. So, as I always say, snug them down before you tighten them. And it's good to do a frost pattern like that. Okay, now we only fired this thing up very briefly last night because it was still wet. So let's give it a shot. See what it sounds like now that we've got new oil in it. All right, we're plugged in and I'm turning the power strip on and let's go. Make sure you're in frame for this because it is monumental. It's actually gonna kick over. Boy, this thing's got a lot of power. All right, that gets that oil worked up in there. Pretty amazing, really amazing. I had my doubts on this guy, but that oil stinks. Needless to say, I will not be leaving that oil in there for long, but this is what I put in there, and it's okay. It just smells terrible. All right, let's see. See if I can grab some WD-40. Those of you familiar with my channel will know that I don't use WD-40 for much. I think it's caustic, so people use it as to loosen bolts, and you may wonder why I'm doing both levels of gloves here. I'll explain in a minute. But so this is dry lube. This is what I use in the motors. Never spray regular WD-40 into a motor. This says dry lube. This is good for lubricating motors. It can also be used to help clean them. This is regular WD-40, and I'll show you what I use this stuff for. I use it to clean metal. And you may think, wow, you're using it to clean metal? Yes, because it is caustic and it is corrosive. And so that's kind of why it will loosen bolts. But it's also why never spray it in locks or anything like that. You may get a temporary fix, but it's not the ideal product for that. But for this, because it's caustic, when combined with steel wool, you can actually give a good preliminary polishing. Since this piece is actually inside the unit, I don't have to polish it too much. Now I'm using the rubber gloves in here because steel wool has a way of working its way into your skin, and it's hard to get it out. These little shards go into your skin, and it's really not fun. You gotta find them, and my eyes aren't good enough, so I end up using reader glasses or some type of magnification to find it, and if you're lucky, you can get it out of your skin. Sometimes you just have to give it a few days to work its way out. All right, so don't use the steel wool on the logo, obviously, but watch how this will get the process started. It's not polishing it, at least not to the degree where it'll start shining, but the real roughness will disappear. All right, so we're going, well, it's not a good before, but because I sprayed WD-40 on it already. But see that's just WD-40. Works pretty good for this. This drill saw has so many angles and things like that. I'm not gonna be able to use the bench buffer. I'm gonna have to do the whole thing likely by hand, not a process I'm particularly fond of, and very time consuming. But the end results are usually worth it. All right, let me wipe that down, and I'll give you a good before after sample. I gotta get some rags here. I don't wanna go to 1,000 paper towels doing this. So this is just WD-40 first coat on this one piece. So you can see it works. Not ideal, not perfect, but it can be. With polishing, it all depends on how far you want to take it. This piece here, this is significantly worse. What I'm going to do is probably get a drill with a wire brush, go over it and paint it. I'm not sure if it was painted to begin with or what. It doesn't look like it, but paint certainly wouldn't hurt it. And it's really, this isn't going to polish up. This was never meant to be shiny. This is nice. This will never be particularly shiny unless I really went after it with a wire brush and polish. But the saw itself, we can get looking good. All right, so I'm going to get to work on this. You don't need to see the whole process. I've kind of shown you the first step. I'm going to take some time and get busy on it. I'll be back. Well, I decided to show you. I'm going to put some goggles on. how the wire brush is cleaning this up, how well it'll work. I've got it mounted on this drill. It's just one of these. And let me make sure we're recording because I already did this and I wasn't recording. So yeah, so we'll do it right here. This is pretty easy to do. All right, so there you go. Just a few seconds. And we've got before and after. It actually looks pretty good. Maybe I won't paint it. If I can get the whole thing to look this good, I won't paint it. I'll be back. Hey everyone, we're back, and today we're going to do polishing. I'm going to see how far we can take this. I'm going to give it about an hour, and what we're going to use is we're going to use this Chemical Guys light metal polish. I really like this stuff. Works really well, it works quickly. So I've got some parts of a bath towel cut up, and yeah, let's see how it goes. So these badges, you do not want to polish those. It's okay to use car wax on them or something like that, but not polish. Polish is too aggressive for that, and it will take the paint off. All right, so let's start with this handle, and we'll see how well that turns out. You can usually tell right away how it's going to work. I'm not pushing down, I'm letting the polish do the work, and yeah, it's starting to come off. You could do this all day if you wanted. Okay, so a couple minutes on the handle. Went from that. Really, it didn't make much of a difference, did it? If this thing wasn't so heavy and so oddly shaped, I could use the polishing wheel. But let's see if I can put a polishing wheel on one of these drills. Let's see. Well, it looks better. Certainly feels better, but it looks like the WD-40 and steel wool took off most of what I'm going to get off here. But I can get it to look more uniform. Interesting. Some of it's coming out a lot shinier than other parts. I'm not sure how much polish it's going to take to get it to all look like that. If it could all clean up that well, I'd be happy. Yep, that's getting it closer. Whew, I knew polishing this was going to take a while. I'm going to pause the camera here. I'll be back. I'll give you a close-up. The finish is coming back. Again, with these things, it's how far you want to take it. Do you want to polish it until you've got a mirror finish on it? I'm not going to take it to that level. I never do with these things. Oh, just realized I've got Mr. T. Muggsy was in here a little while ago. But okay, I'm going to continue polishing this and I'll be back. All right. I put about an hour into it, and I used on the badges, what did I do with it? There it is. I used Tech Wax, which is the same wax I use on my cars. Again, you don't want to use polish on these, it'll take the paint off. And you see they're brighter now. So it looks good, everything's fine. Let's give it a test. I've been jostling it around a lot. I did go in here and reinforce that because this wasn't holding it too tight. All right, so let me plug it in. We're in, power's on, and let's listen to this thing. The torque is just crazy how it flips it right over. Note how it takes a little bit longer for it to slow down now that it's fully oiled. All right. Almost dropped that. All right, let's put the blade back on. I don't really have anything to cut right now to test this. And this is a reverse thread. So you turn it counterclockwise to tighten it. I think I've got my and where's the screwdriver? It's in, blades on. I'm about ready to take a picture as soon as I clean things up. I'll be right back. Well, I figured you'd want me to test it just to see it working. Got the blade on, it's tight. It's heavy. I'll tell you, with all that weight, it cuts really straight, really easily. It's pretty cool. Boy, that is a heavy saw. All right, it's all done. A couple of last minute changes. Since it's going on display, I just quickly painted the blade blue. Could have done a better job with that, but it was kind of a last minute thing, I thought. Just because it would look better than the old blade that I took out. And this is really not going to be put to much use. It's too heavy, too cumbersome, but it does work in case anyone really wanted to use it. It works fine. Another change I did, I took the switch apart again and took all that out, and I wrapped it all with electrical tape and pushed it all back in because I just wasn't that confident that it wouldn't arc out somewhere on this. The way it was set up was very close to everything. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It came out really nice. All right, so that's it. The Skilsaw Model 87 is finally done. It was a challenging project. I think if you're brand new to tool restoration, one of these is probably going to give you a lot of trouble. It certainly did with me. But part of the challenge, aside from the polishing and all that, and getting the switch out and wired, was that it was missing some screws and fasteners, and I had to find replacements for those. And fortunately, I have a vast collection of old screws, so I was able to find all that. But it was tricky, and this was a rough installation. To get the switch back in there and get all the wiring done and around that corner and up the handle. That probably took me more time and caused me more frustration than anything. But hey, it's done and it looks awesome. It's going to go on display, as I said. Probably not the best, most practical saw anymore. I mean, you've got cordless ones that can outpace this thing. But I also have my Porter cable and a couple others that I can use if I ever need something. And they don't weigh 26 pounds like this one does. And I'm not exaggerating, it actually does weigh 26 pounds. It's crazy. But anyway, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. That helps me, it helps the channel grow. And the channel is growing, and I want to thank each and every one of you who have subscribed. That's really helping out. And I'll continue to make content like this. And hey, if you do come across one of these and you want to do it, as long as you're kind of familiar with how to do something like this, it's a worthwhile project because it's gorgeous when it's done, and it really is going to be a conversation piece because it's 75, 80 years old, maybe even older, I don't know. But overall, it's pretty interesting looking saw. And the fun part is saying, hey, lift it up. They'll be shocked at how heavy this thing is. But hey, if you find one and you want to do it, all you got to do is go out and get busy. Take care.